Be Still and Know Publishing presents Redirecting, Discovering Hope in the Unexpected. Written by Susan M. Vitalis, M.D. Foreword by David Stevens, M.D., M.A. Read for you by Judy, Steffen. Foreword. Susan Vitalis is one of the most extraordinary physicians I know, and I know an extraordinary number of physicians as the CEO of the Christian Medical and Dental Associations, the largest professional organization of its kind in the world. I first met Susan when she came to help at Tenwek Hospital in Kenya for 3 months in 1990, where I served as the hospital's CEO. Her work ethic, medical expertise, compassion, and love for the local people made her stand out among the countless short-term physicians who traveled overseas to help. We became good friends, a friendship that has lasted for more than 25 years. I can smell the scents and feel the heat she describes, and I know the people who fill her stories in her captivating book. I led the effort she was part of to relieve the suffering of people in Mogadishu, where more people were dying due to the lack of basic health care than were starving from a fearsome famine or being murdered in the street-to-street fighting of their civil war. I led the relief team that landed on a makeshift dirt airstrip and traveled upriver to Ulang, Sudan, in a boat so heavily loaded with our small team, tents, and supplies that we had 2 inches of freeboard between us and a crocodile-infested river. Susan loved others and served them with joy, despite being in the most difficult living conditions you can imagine, in the midst of an Ebola-like epidemic of relapsing fever with a 50% mortality rate. It was a disease easily cured with a few cheap tetracycline tablets, but they had none. So there were 400 fresh graves at the edge of the village, dug the month before we arrived. I was in charge of the team she served on in Rwanda during the genocide of 1993. To open the largest hospital in the capital, our team had to remove the dead bodies of the patients who had been slaughtered in their beds, and then stare down the killing teams that tried to enter the hospital to kill the patients they had admitted for treatment. Like Susan, I've seen the worst of evil and the best of good people who tackled it head-on. I've seen despair turn to hope. I've seen faith and faithfulness that dwarfs my own amidst ceaseless suffering and too frequent death. Susan is more than an extraordinary physician. She is an extraordinary woman and gifted author. Despite her many accomplishments, she is permeated with humility. She considers herself simply an ordinary servant of an extraordinary God who trusts him enough to follow his command to love her neighbors as herself. Her neighbors don't live next door, but in foreign and forgotten corners of the world, where people live an ignored existence of desperation and despair. Her book is a gift to you. She has traveled tens of thousands of miles, sacrificed hundreds of thousands of dollars of income, put her life at risk in war and epidemic zones, and given up her comfort to learn the priceless principles she is freely sharing with you. As she states in the first chapter of her book, the goal of this book is to prepare you for living a life of significance. Think about it. Your life will one day be over. What are you spending it on? Are you selling your life for too little, or instead pursuing big, scary, audacious goals? God has given you talents and passions, but if you only look at those, you will still aim too low until you realize He also gives you His strength, His guidance, and so much more.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?